So today I want to make a video regarding the useState hook. So this is going to be a super beginner friendly video. So on my left hand side I'm going to have a VS Code, and on my right side I'm going to show you guys the dev server on localhost 3000. So this is the simple React app that I just created using create React app script. I'll put this link in the description below. So you just run that script, and once you're in your directory, just run npm start, so that will open up the server on localhost 3000. You might see a different view because I have deleted all of the unnecessary files like test files and logos and like so on. So I just have like on app.js I just added this thing. I used a tutorial over here. So basically the purpose of this today's video is to like provide you this simple foundation of how React's useState hook works. We're going to start by looking at the documentation on React. Over here is, as you can see, useState. So if you think about like simply, basically useState is a variable like in other programming languages. They are scoped to like within the component that you defined, and if you want to you make a use of those you use of that variable, you want to pass it down to the children components, or pass it down to like the parents using if you pass the array you can achieve that, but normally you would want to pass it to the children sometimes, because your children's component might need that value, which is going to be done through props. So that's going to be the separate topics which we want to cover this like right now, but just think of it as a variable. Syntax is pretty simple. You want to import useState from React. So you want to keep in mind that this is a camel case. It's in the React doc, so you guys can always check it out. And the syntax to declare the useState variable is by using array-like syntax. The first argument, like over here, is the basically the value, like which will hold the whatever like you data, what kind of data you want to store in. Over here it's going to be count, and the next argument over here is going to be the setter, meaning what will mutate that value. Basically that's going to be your second argument, and basically you just equals to useState, and whatever you put in over here you can see 0 over here. That's going to be your default value or the initial value whenever you start the app. Yeah, and now let's start like coding that on our project. So before even coding that, let's like write some JSX over here so that we can get started. I'm gonna open up this 3000 over here, and I want to do I want to create a button. It's gonna be add counter, and I want to have one more button actually, which is gonna be to remove counter. And I also want to have a h1 tag. So I'm going to use JSX syntax, and I'm going to use this string template so that I can make a use of the useState variable, which I'm going to define later on. So I'm going to do current counter is let's just leave it as is over here. Okay, we have our basic setup ready. So the purpose of this counter is to add the counter. This is supposed to remove the counter, because we can't do that right now because we don't have a like the variable set. So let's start doing that. We want to do import react and useState from React. On the current version of React, you don't even need to import the React, but I'm just trying to like follow the documentation over here, because you can like completely omit this React like import. As shown in the documentation, we're going to start by defining our useState variable. So we're going to do const count well, let's name it counter because we have as one tag saying counter, so I want to have that consistency. Set counter. My initial value is going to be 0, and if I just do 0 in JavaScript, it's going to be of type number. You can name this setter anything that you want, but the good practice is to like use the set in front of the like the whatever the counter value like you're using it. So now like since you declared this variable, what I want to do is I want to like since we use string templates over here, right, I want to make a use of that variable. So I'm going to simply copy that counter, and if you're using backticks, you can insert the variable by using $sign and curly braces, and inside that you can insert the JavaScript variables, and in this case I want to put counter. As you can see, it's at 0 because we started that value as a 0, so if we do 1, it should say 1, but I want to start with 0. Okay, now let's start like mutating that value. Every time I click add counter, I want to increase the counter by 1. Every time I click on remove counter, I want to decrease the counter by 1. So let's start working on add counter. I want to add a onClick prop over here, and it's gonna say over here what you can do is since we're just using like mutating like to increase the value, we can just pass a inline function, but what I like to do is I like to separate those like the event handlers on the separate function. So I could do add counter, and I wanna define it. So right now it's saying it's not defined, so let's define it. I want to use the arrow syntax over here. Add counter equals to, and this is where you will pass the arguments. Like if you have, I mean the parameters if you have any, but I don't have any right now, so I can just simply do an empty over there. And now, so every time we click this, so let's just do like see console log create add counter. So every time we click this button now, it should console log that add counter. So means that our like onClick handler is working properly. Now let's start by mutating the value. So every time we click that add counter button, we want to increase the counter by 1. So the syntax would be we want to, as we already discussed, we want to use this setter, right? So I can simply just copy this, and inside that what I can pass is I want to do counter plus 1. So now if we don't have any like we didn't do anything wrong over here, every time we click the counter, it should increase the counter by 1. Okay, looks like it is doing that. And if I click on remove counter, it's not going to do anything because we haven't added that function yet. So let's do for remove. Click remove counter. I'm going to define this function. It's going to be the arrow function as well. Now, because we added the counter on the add counter, now we want to just like subtract 1 from the counter. Set counter minus 1. Now let's clear this out. We want to add counter, we want to remove counter. So everything is working properly. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like for this like basic app, actually it's pretty simple. Just remember the syntax, like the name of the variable, setter, function, your like default or initial value depending upon your use case. So let's say if I was using some kind of string, right? Because let's say if I had a text field, I was storing name on the useState value. I could do like like name set name equals to I want to start with maybe empty string at that time. If I'm trying to store arrays, I want to have empty array. If I'm storing objects, I want to have like curly braces with nothing inside it. Yeah, syntax is pretty much simple, like, and that's pretty much it in terms of useState hook. So I think that's pretty much it. This, yeah, as I said earlier, this is going to be a super beginner friendly video. So yeah, on the next video, I want to do something similar to use effect hook, because use effect hook gets tricky sometimes. So I want to do a video on that one. So my plan is to like cover all of the hooks before jumping into like the projects. We might want to do like the e-commerce project and real life projects on the future. So if you guys like this video and if you find it helpful, feel free to like give a thumbs up and subscribe to the video. I know it's a like super simple video, but yeah, it will massively help the channel, and I will catch you guys in the future. Thank you.